Okay.
So you can see my slides, right?
Yes. I can see very well your slide. So before
Okay,
we started, I will give the introduction first, and then
okay,
I will let you to leading the class.
sure, please.
Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for the coming on this lecture. In this second meeting, we are already meet again with Dr. Rashid. And Dr. Rashid in this section will be explain about the introduction, the science and management livestock waste treatment, especially with the physicochemical properties of livestock waste. And I will let Dr. Rashid to starting the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mokles. So, dear students, welcome to my class. Today is my second lecture, and in this lecture, I will focus on the physicochemical properties of livestock waste. And under this topic, I will describe the physical and chemical properties of the livestock waste. Also, I will focus on the inorganic indicators as well as some key concepts. For example, pH, BOD, COD, carbon to nitrogen ratio, etc. So let's start. So from my previous lecture, we understand or we know about the livestock waste. That is, any kind of unwanted materials we get during the raising of the livestock. For example, mixture of feces, urine, wasted feed and bedding materials, different kinds of microorganisms, nutrients, and other organic and inorganic substances. And the composition of these waste, it's vary or it depends on the animal species, what types of animals we are rearing, their feed material, housing system, as well as the farm management practices. So the physicochemical properties of the livestock waste, it includes some physical features. For example, moisture content, color and odor, temperature, together with some chemical features. For example, pH, nutrient, pathogens, organic, inorganic matters, etc. So physical properties and chemical properties together, they make the physicochemical properties of the livestock waste. Now, the importance of studying of physicochemical properties of the livestock waste. Why it is necessary to understand all these properties of the waste. Because if we study these properties, we can convert these unwanted materials into some beneficial products that we can easily use in our daily life. For example, studying of these properties of livestock, it helps us to reduce the environmental pollution because after studying these properties, we will know how to handle or how to treat these waste to turn it as beneficial uses and how to control the environmental pollution. It also helps us to improve the nutrient recycle as the livestock waste contains valuable nutrients that can be returned to the soil as organic fertilizer. It is also very much useful to the environment. And it also helps us to increase the biogas production efficiency by maintaining suitable waste composition and environmental conditions for the microbial activity. Next, it can also help us in designing proper manure management system to ensure safe collection, storage, treatment, and utilization of the livestock waste. By studying these properties, it also helps us to minimize the greenhouse gas emission because proper waste management can reduce the release of methane and other harmful gases into the atmosphere, into the environment. And it also protects soil and water quality through the controlled waste disposal practices that prevent nutrient leaching and water contamination. So these are the importance of studying all the properties, physical and chemical properties of the livestock waste. So first, we will focus on the physical properties of the livestock waste. Physical properties are those properties that can be visible and measurable characteristics of the livestock waste that influence handling the treatment process. So, and it includes moisture content, total solid, volatile solid, fixed solid, color and odor, and temperature. So first we will start with the moisture content. Moisture content is the water content of the livestock waste, how much water is present in the livestock waste. Ultimately, moisture content, it determines whether the livestock will be in solid or semi-solid or liquid form. If less moisture content, then the waste will be solid. If the moisture content increases, it will be semi-solid or slurry or liquid condition, okay? Now the sources of moisture. First, urines from animals. When the livestock animals excrete or release their urine, it easily mixes with the waste or other products, and it increase the moisture content, water content of the waste. Then water used for cleaning barns and sheds. After cleaning the shelter or living place of the livestock waste and other materials, water easily it mixed up with the waste and the water moisture content increases. Spilled drinking water. When the livestock they drink water, it it can be leaking or it can be dropped from the container and mixed with the waste, and ultimately they cause the moisture content to increase. And rainwater entering the open storage. If the storage area of the livestock waste is not that much protected or well handled, then water from the environment, such as rainwater, it can mixes with the waste and ultimately increase the water content or moisture content of that waste. Now, actually, it is important to determine the moisture content because it determines whether the waste is handled as solid or slurry. Because the moisture content indicate the whether the waste will be solid or slurry. Ultimately, on this it will be depend how because the liquid and solid, this type of waste handling and transportation process will be different. That is why it is important. And it also affects microbial activity and decomposition rate because at the optimum moisture content, the microbial activity will be higher and the decomposition rate will be higher. It also influences transportation cost and storage volume because, as I have already said, solid and liquid, different types of waste has different transportation method as well as cost, and their storage system will be different. And we have high moisture promotes anaerobic condition and odor formation. Increasing of moisture that causes the oxygen level down, that decrease the oxygen level inside the stock, that ultimately cause anaerobic condition and form some bad smelling gases like ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, etc. Now we will see the effects of high and low moisture of the livestock waste. First effect of high moisture. High moisture means the livestock waste is in semi-solid or liquid form, or maybe in slurry form. So this type of waste is difficult to transport. Transportation method will be much difficult comparison to other type of waste. It also increased pathogen survival because high water content sometimes help to uh, to the growth of the harmful pathogens like bacteria. High wastewater generations because when the livestock waste will be in liquid form, it can run off easily and mixed with the other water sources and increase the amount of wastewater. It's also faster now, the faster production of methane and hydrogen sulfide gases because it lowers down the oxygen level, and in anaerobic condition, it produces much hydrogen sulfide gases and methane. Now, the effect of low moisture content, we will focus on this. Low moisture content means the livestock waste is comparatively dry or solid, and this type of waste is easy for transportation and easier for composting. As moisture levels, when the moisture levels are moderate, then microorganisms can do their work for composting with a great efficiency, and it's better aeration because in solid waste, air can be moved throughly very much easy. That increase the air and as well as the oxygen level. It reduced odor protection as is usually reduced odor protection. It's because of the because then the bad smelling gases is not produced. It only produced in the anaerobic condition, but aerobic condition, no bad odor gases is produced. Then we will see the typical moisture levels in poultry litter. It is 20 to 40%. It's actually it's a low moisture content. It's in solid state. On the other hand, in cattle manure and dry slurry, it is 75 to 85%, and dairy slurry it is 90 to 95%. That indicates the moisture level it's bit high, which is termed as the liquid solid. Now we will go to the total solid. So if we remove all the water content or moisture content from the waste, the remaining part is known as the total solid, except the water content. Other everything present in the waste is known as the total solids of the livestock waste. It includes all the dry matter remaining in the waste, such as organic matter, minerals, undigested feed particles, bedding materials, and other solid residues. Now, the importance of solid total solids, okay? It indicates waste concentration because high total solid means presence of higher solid materials that ultimately determine the concentration of the livestock waste. It also helps in designing a storage and treatment system because different kind of waste such as solid waste, semi-solid waste, liquid waste, they require different handling and treatment procedures. It used in biogas and compost calculation because the amount of dry matter helps to estimate the available organic material for biogas production and composting. And how to measure this total solid? Generally, waste sample is dried in an oven or in a dryer at about 105 degrees centigrade until constant weightage is achieved. That means until the total water or moisture is removed from the waste. So this is the total solid. Now we will go to the volatile solids. Volatile solids are the organic part or organic fractions of the total solid, and that it can be decomposed by the microorganisms. It includes proteins, fats, carbohydrates, fibers, and burns off when heated at high temperature. That is why it is known as the volatile solids. Now, the importance of volatile solids. It indicates biodegradable organic material. Ultimately, volatile solids is the organic part that can be break down by the microorganisms during decomposition. It used to estimate biogas production potential because organic matter is the main source of methane during anaerobic digestion. And high volatile solid means greater microbial activity because in case of high volatile solids, more organic matter is present into the waste, and that ultimately increase the activity of the microorganisms. Example of volatile solids are undigested feed materials, fecal organic matter, plant fibers, microbes, plant pigments, etc. Now the fixed solids. Fixed solids are inorganic material residues remaining after volatile solids are burnt away. So if we remove the volatile solids from the total solids, the remaining inorganic part is known as the fixed solids. Now the importance of fixed solids. It indicates mineral content. It means fixed solids show how much inorganic materials and inorganic mineral salts are present in the waste. Excessive fixed solids may reduce efficiency of biological treatment system because in case of higher or excess fixed solids if present in the livestock waste, then other organic material will be decreased that ultimately affects on the biological treatment. Microorganism cannot work in this fixed solid. That is why uh, excessive fixed solid is not good for the livestock waste. Example of fixed solids are sand, soil particles, and some minerals, for example, calcium, phosphate, metal salts, etc. So here we can see the volatile solids and fixed solids. Together, they made the total solids of the livestock waste. And this is the relation between the three different types of solid material that present in the livestock waste. Now we will focus on the color and odor of the livestock waste. First, the color. Actually, color determines the status of the livestock waste because generally fresh manure or waste is usually greenish or brown color, and dark color indicates the decomposition has already been started or already started. Now, the importance of color of the waste, it indicates the degree of decomposition. It means the color of livestock waste can help us to understand whether the waste is fresh or partially decomposed because as I have already told that the fresh color of the waste is greenish to brown, and stored or old waste, it the color of is bit darker. It reflects oxygen availability during decomposition. It means the color of livestock waste can help us understand whether the waste is fresh or partially decomposed. It also suggests moisture content and storage condition because waste exposed to oxygen may decompose differently from waste stored under anaerobic or oxygen limited conditions. Now the odor, it produced during the decomposition and ultimately it results some bad smelling gases, for example ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, methane, etc. The importance is actually when the storage condition and handling condition is not that much good condition, and then improper condition, in the improper conditions, this smells, it can go to the nearby community and it create problem to the population of that community. And it also affects animal and human health because the gases like ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, methane, sometimes it causes irritations to eyes or in the respiratory systems, and ultimately it is not good for the human health as well as for the animal health. And in the physiological properties, next we have the temperature. Temperature is another important factor, and it strongly influences the activity of the microorganisms during decomposition. Because in case of higher temperature, generally the decomposition rate of the microorganism getting faster, because as the temperature gets higher, it helps the microorganism to grow fast. Ultimately, it increases the decomposition rate. Then the greater pathogen destructions, because in high temperature, some harmful bacteria or microorganism, they cannot survive, they die. And it also increased the ammonia volatilization. It means that higher temperature can increase the release of ammonia gas from the livestock waste as the decomposition rate is get higher at the higher temperature. Now, in case of lower temperature, it slows down the microbial decomposition, because generally when the temperature gets lower, it decreases the growth of the microorganisms, and the activity also of the microorganism decreased. It reduced pathogen destructions, because in lower temperature, some harmful bacteria, they can survive very well, and decreased microbial activity, as we have already explained that the lower temperature that makes some barrier in the growth of the microorganisms. So these are the all physical properties of the livestock waste. Now we will go to the chemical properties of the livestock waste. So the chemical properties describes the chemical composition and nutrient characteristics of the livestock waste. And it includes organic matter, nutrient content, some common pathogen, and as well as antibiotic residues and hormones. All this together makes the chemical uh, chemical materials of the livestock waste. Now, first we will see the organic matter. It includes protein, carbohydrate, lipids, cellulose, lignins, etc. These are the organic matters present in the livestock waste. Now, the importance of organic matter. These are the major source of energy for the microorganism, because they supplies the main nutrition to the microorganism for their activities and their growth. It improves soil structure and fertility. It means decomposed organic matter helps make the soil more porous, nutrient rich, and suitable for plant growth. And it is essential for composting and biogas production. It means organic matter acts as the main raw materials that microorganisms can break down during compost formation and methane production. The decomposition, when decomposition is occurs, then the organic matters break down with the help, of course, with the help of the microorganisms into carbon dioxide, methane, water, humus, etc. So if the organic matter present in higher amount in the livestock waste, it is very useful for the environment, because when this type of waste is applied to the soil, the fertility of that soil can be increased and plant get their proper nutrients from that soil. Now the nutrient content. Livestock waste also contains some nutrients as micronutrients, macronutrients, and that ultimately useful for the plant growth and development as well as for the soil fertility. So first, the macronutrients, these are required in large amounts for the plant growth and developments. For example, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, sulfur, etc. These are the macronutrients. And the importance of macronutrients are they support major physiological and metabolic activities for the growth and development of the plants. They also promotes flowering and seed formation. For example, phosphorus, it helps in the reproductive growth of the plants, okay? And it also improves the soil fertility and crop productivity by adding these essential nutrients back to the soil and supporting healthy plant development and growth. Now, the micronutrients, these nutrients required in very small amounts for the plant growth, and these are also essential for their development. For example, copper, zinc, iron, manganese, etc. And the importance of micronutrients are they support enzyme and metabolic activities as cofactors in different biochemical reactions inside the plant bodies. It also improves photosynthesis and chlorophyll formation. For example, iron, it is essential for the chlorophyll formation and as well as also for the photosynthesis. It increases soil microbial activity and soil fertility by supporting beneficial microorganisms involved in nutrient recycling. So, nutrient content is also very much important factor of the livestock waste because high nutrient content livestock waste, when it is applied to the soil as fertilizer, ultimately they increase the nutrient value of that soil and plant can benefit it more from this soil. Now, the pathogens. Because the livestock waste, they also contain sometimes some harmful disease-causing pathogens. For example, bacteria, viruses, protozoa, helminths, eggs, etc. Now, the source from animal feces. From infected animal feces, it can go to the waste. Also from infected animals directly, these microorganisms can mix with the waste. It has some negative environmental and health impacts because these pathogens spread diseases to human and animal health. From the livestock waste, it can easily go to the environment and infect other healthy animal as well as human. It contaminates soil and water sources because if the waste will be not handled or stored in proper management way, then from that waste, these pathogen can easily go to the soil and other nearby water sources. It increases public health risks through proper waste handling. So actually, the faster earlier two lines, they already described how the improper waste management system, these pathogen can go to the environment and ultimately it causes risk to the human community. So that is why the waste that should be handled in care and stored in a much proper way. Now the antibiotic residues and hormones. Livestock waste also contains some antibiotic residues and hormones because they are produced during the raising of the livestock. The sources are veterinary medicine because sometimes antibiotics are used for the treatment of the infected animals and from their feces or urine, these antibiotics residues can easily mix with the waste. As well as growth promoters sometimes used as food additives for the livestock waste raising system, and from there it can easily mixed with the livestock waste. These antibiotic residues and hormones also have negative environmental and health impacts because it may develop antibiotic resistance. from the from the animal waste or livestock waste, when these waste mix into the environmental, such as any other environment and soil, it from in that soils, the bacteria get antibiotic resistance. Other bacteria of the environment also can get antibiotic resistance. Contamination of soil and water, because from a storage area, this waste can be easily go to the soil and water. If not properly managed, then it can also easily contaminate water and nearby soil or nearby water sources. And it is also harm to the beneficial microorganism, because this antibiotic can kill the other beneficial microorganism in the environment if the waste is not managed in a proper way. So all these are the chemical properties of the livestock waste. Now we will learn some inorganic indicators, because the inorganic indicators are chemical parameters used to assess the pollution potential and nutrient composition of the livestock waste. For example, uh, ammonia. Ammonia is produced from the breakdown of nitrogenous compounds. For example, urea, protein. When this breakdown, then ammonia is formed. It causes odor and air pollution, because if the um, if the livestock waste is not stored or managed in a proper way, then the odor can go to the air and it creates the air pollution. Then nitrate, it produced during nitrification of bacteria. Excess nitrate can contaminate groundwater, because from livestock waste it can easily go to the groundwater and it leaches to the nearby soil and nearby water sources. So ammonia and nitrate, both they indicates the nitrogen content of the livestock waste. Then phosphate, it indicates phosphorus content. Generally, high phosphate, if runoff from the storage system, somehow it run off to the any nearby water sources, it can cause blooms, algal blooms. It can increase the number of the algae into that water sources of that water bodies. So excess phosphate, actually it's not good for the environment. And electrical conductivity, EC. Electrical conductivity, it indicates salinity level of the waste. High electrical conductivity may affect soil quality and crop growth. So if the waste, it contains the larger electrical conductivity, it means the salinity level of that waste is higher. And if that waste is used as fertilizer in the soil and applied into the soil, then the salinity level of that soil will also increase. That will be harmful for the crops. So all these are the inorganic indicators that is very much important in the management or handling in the livestock waste. Now we will focus on some key concepts. First, the pH. As we all know, the pH indicates the acidity or alkalinity level of the livestock waste. Actually, pH is very much important in any type of reactions, biological reactions also. And it also influences the microbial growth and activity. So the importance of pH is very important. So first we will see it controls the microbial activity because at a certain period, certain pH level, the microbial activity will be highest, and that can be easily, they can easily break down the organic materials. It also affects the nutrient solubility. It influences ammonia volatilization. Generally, in higher pH, the conversion of ammonium to ammonia gases is also increased. It determines composting efficiency because proper pH supports the microbial decomposition and it helps maintain an effective composting process. Now, the typical pH value of the fresh cattle manure is 6.5 to 7.5. It is nearly neutral, and in case of poultry manure, the value is 7 to 8.5. So it is a bit alkaline. Next, we have biochemical oxygen demand, BOD. It is the amount of dissolved oxygen required by microorganisms to biologically decompose organic matter in water. In wastewater, definitely there is a presence some organic matter. And for microorganism, the total requirement of the oxygen to decompose those organic matter. So this amount of oxygen is known as the biochemical oxygen demand. Importance of biological oxygen demand. It indicates the level of organic pollution because higher BOD means more organic pollutants is present in the wastewater. It is used in wastewater treatment design because BOD helps to determine how much treatment is needed to remove the organic pollutants. It also reduces dissolved oxygen in the water bodies. Why? Because the microorganisms use those oxygen to decompose, to break down the organic matter present in the wastewater. So ultimately, it reduces the amount of the oxygen inside the wastewater. It also has some environmental impact as in case of BOD, oxygen is used by the microorganism for the breakdown of the organic matter. It ultimately causes anaerobic condition inside the wastewater that ultimately causes the death of fishes and other aquatic organisms, and it also causes bad odor formation because in anaerobic condition, some bad smelling gases like ammonia, hydrogen sulfide, that in their production is increased. Now we will go to the chemical oxygen demand, COD. COD is this is also the amount of oxygen and it required to chemically oxidize organic and inorganic substances in water. Now the importance of COD. It monitors wastewater quality because COD helps determine how much polluted or contaminated the wastewater is. It estimates pollution load by showing the amount of oxidizable waste materials present in the wastewater, and it can also use to evaluate treatment efficiency because before and after determining the COD value, we can determine the treatment, how much pollution is decreased. So it is also very much important. Now the environmental impacts, it indicates high pollution stance because higher COD indicates the water is very much polluted. That is why it also reduces the water quality because when the pollution will be increased, then the water quality will be decreased. Oxygen depletion in the water bodies. It occurs when the high COD wastewater consumes the dissolved oxygen. In case of high COD, The wastewater generally consumes the oxygen. That is why the oxygen level also decreased in case of high COD. And next, we have another indicators, that is carbon to nitrogen ratio. Carbon to nitrogen ratio, it means the comparison of carbon to nitrogen in the animal livestock waste or organic waste. Generally, carbon to nitrogen ratio is expressed by carbon by nitrogen, like in these equations I have shown. Actually, it is very much important that carbon to nitrogen ratio is very much important because carbon is the energy source for the microorganisms. Uh, Carbon supplies all the energy to the microorganisms for their growth and activity. As well as nitrogen, it is also needed for microbial protein synthesis. For cellular development and multiplication of the microorganism, nitrogen is also essentials. And microorganisms require a balanced carbon and nitrogen amount for their efficient work, efficient activity, as well as the decomposition. Now, the ideal carbon to nitrogen ratio is between 25 is to 1 to 30 is to 1. And in this range, the activity of the microorganism is the best. That is why in this range of carbon to nitrogen ratio, rapid microbial growth is occurred. Microorganism can grow much faster in this between these ratios, and that is why it is also efficient for decomposition, and it ultimately reduced odor production because balanced decomposition reduces accumulation of excess nitrogen and ammonia smell is decreased in this range. Now we will see the low and high carbon ratio. Low carbon to nitrogen, carbon to nitrogen ratio. Low carbon to nitrogen ratio means the presence of excess nitrogen. In this case, rapid decomposition happens because microorganism can break down the nitrogen rich organic matter. That is why rapid decomposition can go through very well in case of low carbon to nitrogen ratio. Ammonia gas and bad odor gases released due to the presence of a higher nitrogen, and also nitrogen losses occurs. Poultry manure is the example of low carbon to nitrogen ratio. Now, high carbon to nitrogen ratio. It means the presence of excess carbon and the presence of low nitrogen, insufficient nitrogen. It reduced the microbial activity because the imbalance between carbon and nitrogen slows down the microbial metabolism as well as waste breakdowns. And it also slows down the decomposition because microorganism cannot work efficiently when nitrogen is not available in sufficient amounts. Straw and sawdust are the example of high carbon to nitrogen ratio containing waste. And here are some examples of carbon to nitrogen ratios in different waste or manure. In case of poultry manure, it is 10 to 15 is to 1, pig manure 14 to 18 is to 1, and cattle manure 20 to 25 is to 1. And all these are the example of low carbon to nitrogen ratio. That means nitrogen is much higher in these three types of manure. But in case of crop residues, it is 40 to 80 is to 1. And in case of sawdust, is 200 to 500 is to 1. That means these are the high carbon to nitrogen ratio. Carbon is much more higher comparison to nitrogen in these waste. So next here at the reference I used for preparing my lecture today. So that's all for the physical-chemical properties of livestock waste. I think I can explain the most and it will help the students to understand the importance of physico-chemical properties of livestock waste. So thank you very much. I hope see you again in my next lecture very soon. That's why take care. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Rashid. Hopefully, student, you can more understanding the basic information about the properties of livestock waste, so you can explain and more understanding about the materials for the next subject. Okay, student, we will meet again for the next week and see you.